Journalists are supposed to hold those in positions of power accountable, but at the high school level, for a story to run, it often needs approval from the very administrators young journalists are tasked to keep in check. Arizona Senate Bill 1384 aims to stop censorship of student journalism.
It'll say you have the right to the freedom of the press, you have your First Amendment rights just the same as anyone else.
Senator Kimberly Yee's bill aims to expand on protections for student journalists from administrators who would threaten them with disciplinary action for an unfavorable story. The bill has made it through committee and is expected to be heard by the House of Representatives, but some constitutionalists like Itasca Small aren't sold.
It's a Band-Aid, and Band-Aids have to come off sooner or later, because if you leave them on, the wound is going to fester.
Freedom of the press is a First Amendment right, and in the U.S., prior restraint is nearly always prohibited, the exception being student media. The 1988 Supreme Court case Hazelwood v. Kumlier made a landmark decision that principals can censor anything distracting to a learning environment. This can be subjective, and 6 other states have already passed anti-Hazelwood legislation. But as it stands now, high school principals in Arizona get the last word, as journalists at Thunderbird High School learned firsthand.
Thunderbird isn't the only school to practice their right to prior restraint, but they're perhaps one of the more infamous in the Valley. In 2010, a group of student journalists won a Courage Award for scholastic journalism for going up against their school.
Those students appealed, and eventually the district agreed to publish a story that was critical of mandated teacher performance tests. 7 years later, Thunderbird junior Eric Brock is working with Yee to pass this bill. Brock says 2 of his stories were not published, including one on the school's mascot, the Chief.
The principal asked me to provide a rewrite of the article because the original article was too inflammatory. The article was rewritten and presented to the principal and left unpublished.
Brock went on to file a formal complaint about the article's handling. He met with the district superintendent on Wednesday and is working with him to get it published by the next issue. Thunderbird wouldn't allow Cronkite News on campus, but Brock agreed to an interview to describe his principal's reaction.
She asked me, why did you give me this complaint? She said, who is this against? And, you know, I have to go face to face with her and tell her it's against her. And I think that the way it's handled is just really unprofessional.
I reached out to both the principal of Thunderbird and a representative from Glendale Union High School, neither of whom responded to my request for comment.